People who stuck with their partners during hard times, where are you now? Story 1. We're having a baby and are very content and functional, deeply in love and true partners in everything. We went through a stage where we would get in screaming fights every week for a couple months, one of us storming out. We found our way back, but we had to decide to not let it get that way anymore. We had the talk and realized neither of us was going anywhere, so there was just no point in hurting each other. Very proud of us. Story 2. He's currently cheating on me with a crack whore after 16 years, prison time and a traumatic brain injury where he had to learn how to walk and talk all over again. Stopped taking his meds and turned into a monster. I'm currently trying to get things together for myself and leave. Wish me luck. Story 3. Past them. Went from selling anything of value to live to owning a home with a little land, and in our 17 years of being together, we are still not only husband-wife, but best friends who have grown together closer than we ever thought possible. Story 4. She divorced me the moment things got better. We both went back to school, and after we finished, within a year, our income doubled. Hers was a little higher than mine. About a year later is when I started suspecting she was running around. A year after that, we divorced. Now, it's 3 years post-divorce. She can't keep a job other than fast food, and I got several raises and promotions. So, I guess it worked out for me in the end. Story 5. I stuck with him for 17 years and lost my house, my dogs, my credit rating was absolutely shot. And I discovered that he had lied about filing our taxes for 3 years. Had to pay back $10K to state and $10K to Fed. Once I got away, a dear friend let me stay with her for a month. Then I got a solid roommate, was able to get my feet under me, pay my back taxes, and repair my credit rating. Ended up marrying said roommate. We've been together for 7 years and I've never been so happy. Story 6. Divorced Elmau, with full custody of my kids. She went through the mother of all midlife crises, started reading romantic word porn novels, 300 to be exact, and decided that I wasn't romantic enough. How was I supposed to compete with Fabio? She cheated on me with some Chad 20 years younger than her, so I kicked her to the curb. I've never been happier. Story 7. Supported him after he voluntarily quit his job and wanting to do something different. Supported him through school for a few years, carrying all financial burdens. He left and told me I was too much. Wanted to come back 2 months later. I made sure that door was sealed shut. I'm now happily enjoying my single life, though sometimes I do wonder if I'll ever meet someone that can make me feel safe again in a relationship. Story 8. She broke up with me after putting me $2,000 in credit card debt. She's now living across the street with a drug addict young enough to be her son. I'm not saying I'll never date or trust again, but she certainly taught me a valuable lesson about whom I let into my life. Story 9. Thrown out on my ass for severe depression. Stood by her invisible illnesses for nearly 20 years. Of course, I was faking the whole time. Just ask her. Hakuna Matata. She was always the worst person I'd ever known. She was absolutely fascinating. I just thought I was her person, so I was cool with it. Now I'm putting my pieces back together. I've got 2 kids who are better than they have any right to be from the storm that grew up in. I've got my mom out of her tent. She's still got her drugs, but she's sheltered now. I've got my car. She's a zippy little 2023. I've got a place to live and am working on building a new career. I've got some TTRPG groups I'm in. I've got my little cat friend Shadow and a full belly. I'm all right. Stay amazing. I love you always and forever, my friend. Thanks for asking. Story 10. Doing pretty well. 9 years together so far and counting. Year 4 or 5 was pretty rocky due to her getting hooked on hard liquor and abusing the hell out of it. I'd come home almost every day from work with her nearly blacked out. Frustrating to say the least. We took a 3-month break from the relationship, and she realized I was right and that she should quit that poison if she wants a happy life together. No relapses since. Story 11. Sticking with a partner through tough times really tests the strength of a relationship. For some, it's about being there during illness, financial struggles, or family issues. It's not always easy, but the bond that forms when you go through something hard together can make the relationship stronger. It's about showing up for each other when it counts the most. Those moments can shape your connection in ways that nothing else can. Story 12. First wife cheated, took her back. I gave her a house, a son, and rescued her from her family. She let her parents into the relationship, and 3 years later, I bounced as I was so stressed and depressed I was down to 6 stat in weight because of the 3 of them. Second wife cheated multiple times after I took her from her country, gave her a life, a proper job, her own money, paid her debts. Later gave her a house and family. She kicked me out for the last online affair who she never met. Last one, my recent ex, came into her life at her lowest point, helped with debts, pushed her for a job which was exactly what she wanted. Taught her various things to help her grow as she was, and is locked into her past. Showed her that a good guy existed and loved her for who she was, not for her looks. She was confused and angry and had trouble accepting this, so by default became over-emotional, mean, and mistreated me whenever things in her life didn't go her way, even though I genuinely believed she loved me more than anything but just couldn't deal with it all. Stayed for 18 months, but it was doing so much damage I had to end it today. It has crushed me, devastated me, but I know it's for the best. Uplifted 3 people, didn't work out each time. Now I'm stuck with my parents at 38, moved out when I was 18, trying to save to get a deposit for an apartment. Yay me! Story 13. Stuck with my partner who is a recovering alcoholic. The first 6 months of his sobriety were extremely challenging. Then things slowly started to get better. He's molded into the man of my dreams, sober, and has given me everything he's ever promised. I'm grateful to have hung in there, and God bless anyone going through something similar. Story 14. Married for 13 years now. We have a son as well. I finally found someone that was in it to win it just like me, and we've tackled everything to come our way since we met. Homelessness, long distance between us, losing jobs, losing friends, family, pets. Nothing has torn us apart or made us even fight each other. We just bond together even stronger. Story 15. We broke up. The moment he didn't need me financially anymore, it's like my needs within our relationship didn't even matter to him. Everything was always about him. I still miss him a lot. He was the love of my life. And TBH, I don't think I'll ever have a connection with anyone else in the future like I did him. Despite that, I know I'm better off in the long run, but it's been really hard. Story 16. TLDR, no longer with that person, currently on my own, traveling the world. My advice from experience is that rarely, if ever, does this work out beautifully. And if it does, I believe that level of mutually sustained altruism is true love on this earth as I know it. I got into a relationship with someone who happened to have severe agoraphobia. He tried to hide it from me, but I quietly figured it out and knew I fell in love with him for his spirit and not his condition. He never, even the end, had the courage to admit he had it. But all of his family and friends told me about how bad it had been for him and all that held him dear. He was even bedridden for weeks, if not months. I was initially unaware of it and actually met him when I was studying my master's in a different country. We were together for 3 years. I cried in bed with him through all of his depression, anxiety, and all aspects of his condition. I truly felt like everything that happened to him happened to me in the flesh as well. It was incredibly taxing. We couldn't go for a walk around the block without him blanking me and acting like the other side of the street didn't exist. I didn't realize it until a few years after, but I did everything alone. Grocery shopping, hanging out with friends, everything. I made him every single meal from scratch. I loved him to the point of no sense, no sanity even. Then one day, I decided to finally do something with my degree. I sought a job. I sought exciting opportunities to grow. Unfortunately, shortly after and around the same time, I had something extremely traumatic happen. Oddly and coincidentally, he was just getting better and more confident and healthy around this time. He broke up with me as soon as he realized I, for once, needed some love and humanity. The person I was faced with when this happened, when I began to grow and when I began to suffer and actually falter in life, I was met with a cold stranger who made me feel guilty for not being the perfect, boxed-up girlfriend he wanted me to be. To me, it was common sense that I did that, because I wanted to support him and help him flourish. As soon as he saw me flourishing, because I finally felt like I could do so because he got better. And unfortunately, shortly after, when something extremely traumatic happened in my life, fate allowed me to see his true colors. He became emotionally blank and vindictive even, angry that I too was human. I didn't ask him for anything, I just suffered quietly, but he made sure that he negated it and would tell me to suck it up and be positive and not ruin his day. I had to hide grief, tried to, but it was like molten lava and compelled me to be more than this small caricature of a human thing I was, on its hands and knees, begging for life along someone who didn't even want me to consider it alive, unless I was filling my seconds with actions and proclamations that made him feel seen and alive. He dumped me over text while I was abroad for a short bit and working to save money for both of us. To clarify, we had a house together. We had everything one could want in some materialistic, earthly, rooted sort of way, but I didn't go back for a single item. I never went back after that text. I lost more than I knew was possible. My home, my dog, my community. I was deleted in the span of seconds. Pixels that proclaimed my standing in that life. That life was over. And I didn't realize it then, but those hard times were over. Being stuck with someone was undone. He wrote me 2 years later with an 8-page letter saying he regretted everything and self-sabotage because he didn't deserve me. He was crying and asking me to come home. It is strange when you cling to the idea of home / endear it to the point of madness and have it be erased in a second. And have it coming back to you, trying to shapeshift its dark cloud into the life you now so proudly called your own. I remember feeling its juxtaposition with amusement, looming over the life that I now worked too hard to carve into stone. I learned that I had to relearn joy. I relearned sanity. I don't negate being there for another. But when we chose it, it must be sustainable. As I said, rarely is it as such. Oddly, I found an old phone of mine, very old, around the same time, and when I turned it on, his email was logged on because he had used it to access his PayPal for something, from what I recollected. He was never too tech-savvy, and to my horror, my eyes watched as hundreds of emails loaded and reflected that he had downloaded every single dating app known to man a week after he said he was breaking up with me to work on himself. Lo and behold, he had also created an account on a website where he was specifically talking to trans femboys in Asia. I didn't even click on his email. I saw it all just show up on my own phone screen. I authentically have nothing against that, most truly, but was baffled to know that the person who was so prideful of being this lad's lad, and so many other things, was far from everything he proclaimed. I wondered who I had been with. This was many years ago, but what I learned was this: do not set yourself on fire to keep another soul alight. This cliche had more merit than my pride and perhaps culture, him being Scottish and me being Middle Eastern American, ever could hold dear at the time. I was immensely lost at the time, but so whole before I decided to commit myself to someone who was merely committed to convenience of me, rather than a love of my heart, soul, and flesh. I don't regret having learned this, but I intuitively condemned my inner world that realized this at a certain point early into the relationship. I mistook insanity and self-erasure for love. It's been a few years now. I'm now traveling the world on my own. I've had a few ups and downs in my career and life since. He used to mock that I was ambitious towards the end. Currently unemployed. But I can hear my thoughts. I can navigate my soul world and hear it, unlike how drowned I was when I was with someone who needed so much and gave nothing. I am not a victim. I did all of that to myself. I learned that there are souls that can ground you. Not perfect, yes, but ones that can inspire you to be more than you can fathom, or at least more than you can allow yourself to be. I've learned about balance. I've learned how to breathe, how to exist without self-erasure in every capacity, and that I can do that for others without feeling like I have to give, to be anything at all. This makes me indulge in human interaction, from an existential perspective, almost, to flourish and have others delight in it, instead of consider it a betrayal. In some earthly, always tortured ha-ha way, I am at peace now. I don't even seek others. I wanted to harvest so much self-worth by cowering down to another. I wish I could embrace that young woman, and anyone who's doing that now in any capacity, not even romantic, any type of crawling through life catalyzed by a condemnation of the self. There's so much landscape within my own heart. I cannot fathom having another join me in it. That is my only human flaw, or secret joy. Story 17. She left me at my lowest after I took care of her at her lowest for 5 months after surgery, then getting her sober. Cost me my savings, my job, and my self-worth. I went the 6 hours back to my place, and she started cheating while I was getting ready to move there. She cheated with a guy who shot her down before we met, and he messaged her trying to cheat on his GF. She left me 2 weeks shy of proposing, and he immediately started cheating on her as well. Vertical bar. She took him on an all-inclusive vacation to save the relationship after catching him yet again last January, where he promised they wouldn't drink, and the moment they got to the resort, she went to the bathroom and came back, and he had 2 drinks in front of him. She blacked out every day I believe they were there. He's cheated several more times, and she bought a house with him in a remote village where it's a 3-hour round trip to get groceries minimum. Had spoken to her in 10 months when she contacted me in tears about how horrible he was and all his cheating, so I helped her make his plan to leave him, and they went away that weekend. Abel bought a house, and he promised they'd get sober and he'd stop cheating if she signed the mortgage because he has no credit and got denied a mortgage. They aren't sober. He didn't stop cheating. Her kids are now in one of the 10 worst education districts in the country, and she's trapped, all because the grass was greener on the other side. Story 18. Bunch of failed IVF cycles just about tore us apart. Nighttime injections in the hip, continuous treatments. Doctor after doctor telling us it was never going to happen. Both of my wife's sisters having kids, no problem. Spent all of our money on IVF. Last cycle waited till the day we could do the pregnancy test. Got the slimmest of slim second lines on a retest. Ran out and got a bunch more tests all positive. Fast forward, one 6-year-old daughter has her feet thrown over my wife's legs on the couch while she's making my wife laugh out loud with stories from school. My wife is going through her chemo schedule, AKT starting Jan, with our daughter. Some more tough times ahead, but we got this far. Oh yeah, son is asleep upstairs. Seems like the successful IVF got things going. Story 19. Stuck with her through an affair. She asked me to stand by her through her worst, and I made a promise to her family on our wedding day I would. We went to therapy and things got so much better. We bought a house and our therapist and as a couple all thought we were doing so well and communicated so incredibly that we stopped therapy. Came to find out 2 years later she was lying the whole time and was in another affair the whole time. Been divorced 6 years now. Met the girl of my dreams 3 years ago and she's a complete upgrade. Smarter, more beautiful, complete heart of gold, comes from a lot of money and is completely obsessed with me. She tells me every day how much she appreciates me and wants to spend the rest of her life with me. Life's good. I'm glad I stuck it out. Story 20. I stayed with my partner when I was depressed because I thought we didn't have a fair chance while I was still depressed. He also didn't want to lose me, didn't want to give up. Less than a year became 3 years together, ended with abuse and my mental health in a horrible state. It didn't click for so long that staying with him was keeping me ill. When I left him, it took less than a year to get the bigger picture on track. More than a decade later, I'm baffled by what I put myself through, and now I'm thriving. Story 21. My husband and I got married at 19. Everyone always wants us to say that it was a mistake, but honestly, I am so glad we did. Some years in college and right after were very hard, but we made a commitment to work through everything, and I am so glad we did. We have a beautiful home, a beautiful daughter, and we have the opportunity to grow old together looking back at our whole life. I'm so grateful I stuck out the hard times. I do want to include the caveat that while we have had significant and intense issues, my husband is not a cheater or an abuser. Some things are not worth sticking it out if anyone needs to hear it. Story 22. Just entering the hard times. My wife has early onset Alzheimer's. I put hard times in quotes because while it has been a shock to realize the new reality and what adjustments it will take, we're still in love. And she still makes me happy. I'm a lucky man. There's no question about the stuck with journey. We're both committed and responsible. On the other hand, I want her to know that I'm not stuck. I choose to be with her. Every day I make a decision to stick with her. I'm happy. Story 23. Although there are some things my partner has done to me that is unforgivable, we have been together 10 years now and have been through it all. I can honestly say that we are stronger than ever, and I feel like he is my best friend now. We both are bettering ourselves in all areas, and at the end of the day, not only are we doing it for ourselves but each other. Sure, we could have split many times, but I think sticking it out and doing the work is worth it in the end. A lot of adults are just walking around with child wounds that they need to heal. And once they do that, then the real you comes out. The healed version, the better you. And your partner should bring that out in you and be that safe person to work through our with without judgment or abandonment. But that isn't to say if it's really bad, then no, you shouldn't stay. There needs to be boundaries, and you need to love yourself enough to know when it's time to walk away. Story 24. He got a job after 2 years of unemployment, and me paying for nearly everything. Not just any job, a job in his field. He'd all but written it off, but I kept encouraging him. He bought a ring and proposed after getting a paycheck. It's now 8 years since he got that job. We got married, bought a house, and have a beautiful child together. He gave a speech at our wedding about how I stood by him and he will always do right by me because we're a team. People warned me about him when he was unemployed, and in their defense, I would say the same thing to a friend. But I knew he was the one, and this was temporary. Story 25. Divorced and still trying to pick up the financial pieces in a small-town backwater. She had an accident while we were dating, leaving her with a debilitating injury that, over about 15 years, gradually improved. During much of that time, her condition and periods of hospitalization severely impacted our relationship. Activities, finances, her ability to work, intimacy. 10 months without intimacy was the longest period. My career choices, and the emotional toll on both of us. Eventually, despite medical concerns, we decided to have a child. This added constraints on where we could live as we relied on family support, which again influenced our career path. Many times I considered leaving. In the final years, her health improved significantly. With my help managing childcare and my job tailored around parenting so she could pursue her studies, she completed a degree in a niche, lucrative field. Things were finally looking up and we planned to start a business together. However, she felt she'd missed out on life, rekindled an old, expensive hobby, and spent most of our savings, all of which was mine before we'd met. In the end, she cheated on me with a classmate. By then, she had also realized her new career would be highly profitable. She divorced me, taking half of what remained, and 2 weeks later left the country, leaving me to be a single father to a 9-year-old girl. Story 26. We fled our home in Beirut in October, able to bring nothing with us but one suitcase each and a dog under the other arm. Now living with her parents in a spare bedroom in New York while we figure out how to regroup. Our relationship has never been stronger. You see who a person really is in a crisis, and we both know we've got each other's backs through thick and thin, passed the hardest of tests and came through on the other side. I'm incredibly proud of how she's managed. She's a rock. I love her so much. Story 27, 25 years together today. Major hard times at 7 years and again at 19 years. So blessed we decided to stick it out both times. Took lots of prayers and counseling. Occasionally the hard times are brought up as low blows and arguments, and other times we can laugh about them and recognize we are stronger now because of them. Story 28. Stuck with my bipolar partner through a hellish year of 2 stints in mental hospitals, a nerve injury, and 10 months of not working. Paid her mortgage bills and got her some training certs while she was not working. She just went back to work, scored a director position and a huge raise, and plans to pay me back for the financial help. We held off on moving in together full time, but we'll be doing that next year. We're pretty good at taking care of each other, and it's working out great. Story 29. Been together 10 years through 2 deployments. I cheated after 2 years. I was manipulative and got her back with me. She cheated 2 years later. She convinced me to go back with her. We stayed together for our children, and it changed us as people, and now we truly do love each other. We joke about cheating and say, nah, let's keep it even. I recommend 0% of what we did, but it worked out for us. Story 30. We had a pretty rocky start to our relationship, but we were willing to stick it out. I have some serious challenges with emotional intelligence, and she has a lot of baggage of her own, so we really struggled a lot when our relationship first started. Our first 6 months, we almost broke up nearly every day. 2 years later, we just got engaged, and I'm incredibly grateful that we took the time to learn how to be good partners rather than just ignoring our problems. Story 31. I don't know how she puts up with me sometimes, but tomorrow is our 26th anniversary. We don't fight, there's no abuse, but I get depressed and anxious and disassociate semi-frequently. We have been through some external to our marriage: child with multiple chronic illnesses, loss of a family business, and an 11-year lawsuit, a few health scares on my end, being flat broke, trouble finding work, my going back to grad school on loans and a shoestring budget, our best only friend couple having an ugly divorce. We're both broken, but the jagged edges fit together somehow. We are still struggling, and the light at the end of the tunnel seems to get further and further away. But we still have some retirement funds unmolested by all the bull, and our youngest is half through college with a solid plan for their life going forward. Could be a lot worse. Story 32. I'm still here, starting to put my shattered life back together. We were together for 7 years. She relapsed during the pandemic. It took months to get her into a good rehab. She completed the program and was living in the rehab's 3/4 house doing well. One morning, I called and called, but she didn't answer. She was a heavy sleeper, but something felt very wrong, and I ditched work to go check on her around 9:30 a.m. I broke down the door of the apartment, but I was 8 HRS too late. She would have been back home in a couple weeks. I'd give anything for a do-over, even if it was the same result. Nobody saw it coming. She was serious about getting clean, a key holder at her AA club, had a good job lined up, good friends, a devoted fiancé, and a reactive dog. Now it's just me and the dog. Over 200 people came to her funeral in 2022. Story 33. Still together, just living. Every relationship has hardships. If you don't think so, you're not based in reality. Something always happens, and it might not even be between you and your wife or husband. It could just be external factors that's putting strain on your relationship. I find that the longer I'm with my wife, the easier it is actually to get through hardships. Story 34. When we first got together, we were drug addicts and had the most toxic relationship possible. Just terrible partners to each other, shouldn't have stayed together, but we did. And in a rare miracle, we got clean together, plus lots and lots of therapy, and are now in the healthiest at relationship that we have both ever been in. I literally wouldn't have believed you 3 years ago if you told me this. Story 35. I was a single mom of a 4-year-old living out of the trunk of my car, a waitress, struggling to make it through college. He was just out of the Marines, and he was in college as well for fire technology. We were so broke. I ended up living in his family home, teeny, with 7 people. We slept on the floor on an air mattress. My family wanted me to quit college. He supported me to finish. I got a job at an investment bank, stocks and bonds. I supported him through his last 2 years of fire training and interview, and he took my daughter to school every day so I could work market hours. 20 years later, my daughter has traveled the world in the Air Force. We have met her around the globe several times. We have 3 homes, and we still love each other so much. We had 3 more kids together. Currently, we have 24, 12, 10, 2-year-old. He has sciatica, and I gained weight, but other than that, life is peachy. Story 36. I stuck with my partner through some really hard times. And it wasn't easy, but it brought us closer. We learned how to communicate better and support each other, and now we're in a much stronger, happier place. These days, we're kind of building a life together. I work in marketing. They have a small business, And we're focused on creating a future that feels stable and full of love. Those tough times taught us how to be a team, and it's made all the difference. Story 37. We've been through a roller coaster of a few years. Sickness, disability, treatment, surgeries. It's been a lot. There have been days where we just wanted to be done with each other, with bills, with money. We've both just wanted to get out, but we didn't. When one of us faltered, the other stepped up. And now, we're as strong as ever. The relationship doesn't look like it used to, and we've had to adjust our lives and expectations, but we're good. Story 38, 7 years together. Both are still in therapy, alone and together. I stayed because I knew who he truly was, and I also knew that I had my share of trauma too that was affecting us. The walls are finally coming down, and the love grows stronger. I give it a year, maybe 2, and we'll be right where we're supposed to be. Story 39. She was unemployed for a good minute, but always applied and tried until she landed a job. Took several months and lots of tears. She's bawling now, making 6 figures, and we are planning to buy a house soon. We go on vacations around the world on a yearly basis. We are blessed and comes to show you that hard work pays off. She doesn't need to spend a penny on me, but she says it's a thanks for sticking by when it was hitting the fans. I've been with her for 7 years and we are stronger than ever. Story 40. I stuck it out through medical episodes, catching her talking to other guys, her family drama, etc. We were together for 8 years, 5 of them married. I got a text message that she was going to stay with her mom for a while and taking our daughter with her. It's been 13 months. I found out she was cheating with a guy online for the last year of our relationship. I tried to make it work. I found out she was still cheating. Then she told me she wants a divorce. Life really kicks you in the teeth sometimes. Story 41. I gave him my inheritance to buy a business because he was depressed at his office job as a financial advisor. He wanted to make things with his hands, so he turned his hobby, furniture making, into a business. I became the breadwinner and he was fulfilled. After a year, his business was deep in the red. He'd bought so many fancy tools and machines. That's when he ran off with my childhood best friend. According to the guidelines, he was too poor to pay child support. That man was the GOAT of financial planners. Story 42. My experience relates to cancer, but I think it's transferable to other life challenges. Cancer has a tendency to bring out the best in strong relationships and the worst in more tenuous ones. It only brought us closer together and solidified our relationship even more. But I've seen so many situations where the opposite has happened, especially because high-dose steroids can make otherwise normal people downright cruel. We are 6 years beyond diagnosis with an incurable but somewhat treatable disease. He is doing great, and we are making the most of our life while we have it. Story 43. Not the point of the post, but I'm blessed to still be waiting for hard times. My wife and I have been a couple for 5 years. We will be married 3 years in February. COVID put our relationship on a fast track since she stayed at my place, and we both were made remote. As we spent every minute of every day together, I realized I couldn't breathe without this girl. She is the sun to my world. To this day, on our second house, 2 dogs, and a toddler later, I've yet to experience any hard times with our relationship. Even the arguments are so simple and easy to solve. It's at the point I cannot even conceptualize what a hard time really is anymore, as long as we are together. We've had stuff bad happen to us like layoffs, getting sick, etc., but it's always been easy doing it together. IDK, I'm just blessed, I feel like, after reading these comments. Story 44. We worked our asses off for a while, with each of us working multiple jobs. That got all our debt paid off. Then we dropped down to one job, a single income, so one of us could go back to college. Then we swapped, single income again, so the other could get a degree. Financially brutal. Now we're both making way more money than we could have before. We each work one job and do so remotely. We get tons more time together, no more stressing about bills, and we're able to put money away every month. It took a ton of trust and absolutely relying on each other, and it was absolutely worth it. Story 45. A decade together. Lost a baby together and suffered as victims of a terrible car accident, also planted roots in a new state and created a dope little family together with our beautiful 2 kids and dog. We go through many stages of life, and I'm glad we grow through them together. I sometimes long for our young love of butterflies and carefree nights, but remind myself that the life I'm living now is what I prayed for then. There are many, many hard days, but way more good ones. And we respect and love each other, promising loyalty and to always give each other the benefit of the doubt based on that love and respect. Life has gotten in the way, and we haven't been able to get married yet, but I'm stoked for the day we can formally commit to each other in front of our loved ones. Story 46. The year I met my partner, my roommate was outed for raping a girl, which led to 3+ months of homelessness and couch surfing. She never once gave up to go back to her already crowded home, stayed by my side every step and never complained, which she truly deserved to do. Now, 9 years later, we're set to marry, and she's about to take 6 months off work to find some peace and reconnect with herself, take time to heal from other traumas. All thanks to me landing my dream job and pulling in some serious income. Being able to give that to her is a dream come true. I want to give this woman the world because she already gave me the whole damn universe. Story 47, on the train with my next partner on the way to their family's Christmas celebration. It's been 2 years since the one I stuck with during hard times died. I don't regret 1 minute I had with him. Maybe I should, because he was not only sick of cancer, but also a pathological liar, and in fact had a wife and newborn children. Didn't knew about them until I wanted to visit him at his deathbed. Not one of our friends knew about them, not even his parents. But that's the thing, I don't regret 1 minute. Story 48. We were together for 15 years, married 9, grew into adults together, college, marriage, bankruptcy due to financial illiteracy, and he helped me while I battled crippling mental illness. Things were good, I thought, until he became an alcoholic and couldn't go more than an hour without smoking weed, and I asked him to slow down, not stop. About a month after COVID lockdown began, he told me he wasn't happy, and it was my job to fix things. It's a bit more complicated than that, and he is definitely a good bit more in the wrong here, but in the end we split up. We've been divorced for almost 4 years. I met my boyfriend when we started at a new job a week apart, and after a few months, we ended up together despite having no intention of getting into a relationship before we met. I had only been single for 10 months when we got together. Now we have been together a little under 3 years, and I'm very happy with the way things are. My ex-husband and I are still friendly, and I'm very close with his new wife. I was understandably devastated when we split, but I had no idea how much happier I could be. Story 49. The person recovered from a very bad accident. I took care of everything for 5 years, taking care of the injury and everything. It was a hard time with little support. The person had the opportunity to move to the U.S., and he knew he didn't need me anymore to take care of him. And once his job was confirmed there, he filed for divorce. I am left with no money as everything was spent from my earning except rent. I didn't ask for alimony, nor did I look back. I feel used and cheated. Not his family once tried to talk to me, who were like my own parents. So it's been 8 years. I'm still struggling financially, as I had to leave my job, and also I have started my further education, looking for a job too. My parents still don't know about this, so I have to put up a happy face. But sooner I knew the person's real face, the better. I did what a life partner does for each other. Story 50. I created some hard times in our relationship. She was willing to stick it out with me because we made vows to each other, and our children deserve to know what a two-loving parent household is all about. She's definitely a better person than me. I've been working a lot with our therapist to course correct. I've also been right by her side through all her family stuff, and I have been the only one sticking up for her to her family. We're not perfect, but we love each other and want it to work and be purposeful for the both of us. Story 51. We aren't together for as long as many other pairs here, but after about 5 years, he gained a medical condition without either of us knowing that completely changed his personality. He stopped spending time with me. He didn't show me love anymore. Sometimes he even got a little aggressive, which he never did before. At some point, we talked about splitting up and decided together that we still want this relationship. Luckily, we found out what it was, and now 2 years later, we are married and planning for children. Couldn't be happier. Communication is key. Story 52, separated. Stuck it out for 4 years after a PTSD diagnosis. He wouldn't work. He wouldn't enter treatment until it was killing him, so like once a year, he wouldn't stay on meds, wouldn't go to therapy, eventually wouldn't even leave the house due to paranoia. I wish I left him sooner, instead of giving him years to get better when he never intended to do so in the first place. He simply ceased existing at all, or caring about his life in any way or our life. Stayed in the house all day, refused to participate in his own health, refused to either work or sign up for disability because disability was emasculating, refused to help in the house. His outbursts got worse and worse and worse until he gave himself a stroke. Then it got even worse because he took that as a sign that he was owed caretaking and should do nothing. Didn't lift a finger around the house after he was healed, and 100% zero physical limitations or physical disability. 100% of the finances were on me, and I was in debt and drowning. He would self-medicate with weed and just take my money and spent hundreds every month on his habit, but wouldn't take his doctor-prescribed meds, and I'd come home to him on the video game dishes piled in the sink, dogs in cages all day, laundry piled up, floors a mess, nothing done. Got sick of doing everything for someone who wouldn't lift a finger for me or themselves. Overall, I will never support another person in this way again. Worst 6 years of my life. The next person gets 30 days to get their together if they have a crisis, and then I'm out. LOL. Story 53, high school sweethearts, coming up on 22 years together. We have been through every hard time you can think of, individually and combined, but knew the best way through every time was side by side as partners in life. We fall more in love with each other every year, and there is no version of our lives without each other. As long as you maintain respectful and honest communication with each other and are truly partners in life, the hard times always have a light at the end of the tunnel. Story 54. We're in hard times now. I decided to go back to school earlier this year for my degree as my current career is taking a physical toll on me. As a result, I work less. I wouldn't say we're fighting about money, but we're both frustrated. She's pushing me to work more during the semester and take fewer classes, while I think it's better for me to take more classes so that I can graduate sooner and start being able to dig us out. I fear that if I work more, I will be injured in a way that will keep me from working for several weeks, or I can't do my job anymore. Story 55. We clawed our way from the bottom together. 10 years later, and we live a lot more comfortably. I would say most of our problems are first world problems with some unexpected shows once in a while. But man, I'm so lucky. We're both incredibly resilient and forgiving. We have a long way to go in terms of being successful, but I'm extremely, extremely proud of how far we've come. Story 56. We both had to sit down and take inventory of what we both wanted in life, and luckily it was to be with each other. We were both severely unhappy with our jobs and where we were in life, and the negative feelings would sleep into our relationship. Did a little couples therapy and decided to get married. 2 days after we got married, we bought our house, and we are super happy. Story 57, 3.5-month preemie 6 years ago. Lost my job, lost her job, all in the same 6 months. There was never a question of if, only how we would survive all that. Oh, and we had a 2.5-year-old at home through it all. Today, we're us again. We laugh, we giggle. She's my favorite person on this planet. Being apart hurts, and being together is just how life is meant to be. We have normal people struggles. We're not rich, but goddamn, we are the luckiest. The preemie is doing just great. Smartest kid you ever met. You don't get to look down at a ticket in your hand and realize the numbers match when you win this much of the lottery of life. You just got to take a step back every now and then and fight back the immense tears of joy. Love just isn't a strong enough descriptor for how I feel about her and my boys. Story 58. Been together for almost 10 years, married for 3. We are very happy and still deeply in love. He's my best friend. We have seen each other through bad times, really bad times, and periods of individual hardships. We have also supported and motivated each other and celebrated the big wins together. I know that he is the person who will be by my side through it all because he's proven it time and time again.